The Great Hall of Convergence Prime was full of the most powerful beings in the galaxy. Representatives from 100 worlds stood in their finest clothes, watching the stage with hungry eyes. They had all come for the same reason. Princess Yuna of the Valorian Empire was looking for a starship, but not just any starship. A ship worthy of carrying the future Empress across the stars. The prize was beyond imagination. Whoever won would receive an exclusive trade contract with the Valorian Empire. This meant trillions of credits and political power that could last for generations. Every major species had sent their best. Princess Yuna sat on a raised platform, her silver hair falling past her shoulders. Her eyes were the color of deep space, and her face showed no emotion. Beside her stood Advisor Seol, an older woman who had served the royal family for 50 years. The first ship came from the Luminari. Their vessel was made entirely of crystal that sang with light. It could travel through dimensions that other ships could not even detect. The Luminari ambassador spoke for 20 minutes about its perfection. Princess Yuna looked at the holographic display. She stood up, walked around it once, and sat back down. "No," she said. The Luminari ambassador's face turned pale. "Your Highness, perhaps if you could tell us what is wrong." "Next," the princess said. The Threll came forward with their bioship. It was a living creature grown over centuries, bonded to its pilot through DNA. It could heal itself, adapt to any environment, and live for 1,000 years. Princess Yuna watched the presentation. When it finished, she did not even stand up. "No." The Threll representative made a sound of anger but said nothing. They walked away with their head down. One by one, the greatest shipbuilders in the galaxy presented their work. The Nexari showed a ship that could fold space itself. The Vordani brought a vessel powered by a captured star. The Kelthan offered a warship that had never lost a battle in 800 years. Princess Yuna rejected them all. By the end of the day, the Great Hall was filled with confusion and whispered anger. 47 ships from 47 species, and not one was acceptable. "The princess insults us," said the Nexari ambassador to his companions. "She wastes our time with this game." "Perhaps she does not truly want a ship," another replied. "Perhaps this is some political trick." But Advisor Seol knew the truth. She had seen the princess's eyes during each presentation. Yuna was not playing games. She was genuinely disappointed. That night, a rumor spread through the station. Someone remembered that Princess Yuna had visited Earth 3 years ago. During that visit, she had toured an old museum of sailing ships, wooden vessels that humans had used to cross their oceans centuries ago. A guard who had been present said the princess had cried while looking at them. "Human ships," the Nexari ambassador laughed when he heard this. "Their technology is 500 years behind ours. They still use metal hulls and chemical thrusters. It must be a joke." But someone on Convergence Prime sent a message to Earth. 3 weeks later, Do-hoon Park sat in his small office on Luna, Earth's moon, reading that message for the 10th time. His company, Horizon Dynamics, was nearly bankrupt. They had 42 employees, 3 half-finished contracts, and enough money to survive maybe 6 more months. And now they had an invitation to build a ship for the Valorian princess. "This is crazy," said Jisoo Han, his second in command. She stood in the doorway with her arms crossed. "We build transport ships for mining companies. This is not what we do." "I know," Do-hoon said. "The Luminary ship probably cost more than our entire company will earn in 100 years. I know. Every major species in the galaxy failed. What makes you think we can succeed?" Do-hoon put down his tablet and looked at her. "I don't think we can succeed, but I think we have to try." "Why?" He gestured at the walls around them. "Because in 6 months, none of this will exist anyway. Our people will lose their jobs. Everything we built will be sold for parts." He paused. "But if we try this, If we really try, at least we will have done something worth remembering. Jisoo was quiet for a long moment. Then she sighed and sat down across from him. Fine, she said. But we need to be smart about this. We cannot compete with alien technology. We do not have the resources, the knowledge, or the time. Then we don't compete with it, Do-hoon said. We do something different. Like what? He thought about the rumor, the princess crying in front of old wooden ships. Those ships were not powerful. They were not fast. They could not cross space or fold dimensions. But something about them had touched her heart. I don't know yet, he admitted. But I think we need to figure out why she rejected all those other ships. What was missing? The next day, Do-hoon called his entire team together in the main workshop. 42 people stood among the machinery, looking confused and worried. They had all heard the rumors. Do-hoon stood on a crate so everyone could see him. I know what you're thinking, he said. You're thinking this is impossible. You're thinking we're just humans, and we can't compete with species that have been building starships for 10,000 years. And you're right. We can't. Murmurs spread through the crowd. But here's what I know, Do-hoon continued. Every ship that Princess rejected was perfect. Perfect technology, perfect efficiency, perfect design. And she said no to all of them. He paused. Maybe she's not looking for perfect. Maybe she's looking for something else. Something that only we can give her. A young woman near the front raised her hand. Her name was Minseo Choi, and she worked on propulsion systems. What do humans have that other species don't? She asked. Do-hoon smiled. That's exactly what we need to figure out. He looked around at his team. Engineers, designers, mechanics, programmers. They were not the best in the galaxy. They were not even the best on Earth. But they were his people, and they knew how to work hard. We have 3 months, he said. Let's build something worth remembering. The team exchanged glances. Then, slowly, Minseo nodded. Others followed. Within a minute, everyone in the room was nodding. Jisoo stepped up beside Do-hoon. All right, she said to the crowd. You heard him. Back to work. We have a princess to impress. As the team scattered to their stations, Do-hoon felt something he had not felt in months. It was not hope exactly. It was something simpler and stronger. It was purpose. 6 weeks into the project, Do-hoon stood in the construction bay and felt despair creeping into his heart. The skeleton of their ship hung in the zero-gravity dock, surrounded by floating workers and robotic arms. It looked small. It looked ordinary. We're failing, he said quietly. Jisoo floated beside him, checking her tablet. The structure is sound. The engines will meet all safety requirements. That's the problem, Do-hoon interrupted. We're meeting requirements. We're being safe. We're building exactly the kind of ship that 47 other species already built better than us. He pushed off from the observation window and drifted toward the exit. Call a meeting. Everyone. 1 hour. When the team gathered, the mood was tense. They had all been working 16-hour days. They were tired, and they could feel that something was wrong. Do-hoon stood before them, struggling to find words. Then Tae-hyun Kong spoke up. He was the oldest member of the team, a veteran craftsman with gray hair and rough hands. I've been thinking about those old sailing ships, Tae-hyun said. The ones the princess saw on Earth. Everyone turned to look at him. Those ships were made of wood, he continued. They leaked. They were slow. A storm could destroy them in minutes. By every measure, they were terrible technology. He paused. But sailors loved them. They gave them names. They carved decorations into them. They cried when they sank. Minseo frowned. Why? Because those ships were not just machines, Tae-hyun said. They were homes. The sailors lived on them for months, sometimes years. Every plank, every rope, every nail. Someone had put it there with their own hands. The ship carried not just cargo, but memories, dreams, hope. The room was silent. "We've been trying to build a better machine," Taehyun said. "Maybe we should try to build a home." Do-hoon felt something click in his mind. He looked at Jisoo and saw the same realization in her eyes. "Start over," he said. "New design, from the beginning." Yoonji Lim, their AI specialist, raised her hand. "We only have 6 weeks left." "Then we work faster." The next 6 weeks were the hardest of Do-hoon's life, but they were also the best. The team threw away their old plans and started fresh. Instead of asking, "What is efficient?" they asked, "What is meaningful?" Instead of, "What is powerful?" they asked, "What is beautiful?" They added windows. Real windows made of reinforced glass that showed the actual stars outside. Every other species used screens and sensors. Windows were considered primitive, a waste of hull space. But Minseo argued that there was something different about seeing the universe with your own eyes. The team agreed. They built a garden room, a small space near the center of the ship where real plants could grow under artificial sunlight. It served no practical purpose. A luminary designer would have laughed at it. But Yoonji said it would give the ship life, and the princess would feel it. They created manual controls, not just computer interfaces, but actual levers and switches and wheels that a pilot could touch and turn. It was old-fashioned. It was inefficient. But Jisoo pointed out that touching something real created a connection that touching a screen never could. And they made it comfortable. Not luxurious like a palace, comfortable like a home. Soft seats that held your body just right. Lighting that felt like sunlight. Rooms with curves instead of sharp corners. Everything designed to make a person feel safe and warm. Taehyun spent 3 days carving traditional patterns into the wood panels of the command deck. When someone asked why he was wasting time on decoration, he shook his head. "This is not decoration," he said. "This is the ship's heart." In the final week, disaster struck. Yoonji discovered that someone had accessed their computer systems. Files had been copied. Their entire design was now in someone else's hands. "Sabotage," Jisoo said, her face pale. "One of the other companies. They're going to steal our ideas." The team gathered in emergency meeting, exhausted and angry. After all their work, someone was going to take their creation and claim it as their own. But Do-hoon shook his head. "Let them," he said. Everyone stared at him. "Let them copy our blueprints," he continued. "Let them build windows and gardens and manual controls. It won't matter." "How can it not matter?" Minseo demanded. Do-hoon looked at Taehyun's carved panels, at the small imperfections where his hand had slipped, at the places where the pattern changed because he had a new idea halfway through. "Because they can copy what we built," Do-hoon said. "They can't copy why we built it. They can't copy the intention, the care, the love." He touched the wood grain. "Every centimeter of this ship has a piece of us in it. They can steal the shape, but they can't steal the soul." The team was quiet. Then, slowly, they went back to work. On the final night, Do-hoon walked through the completed ship alone. It was called Dawn's Promise now. Minseo had suggested the name, and everyone had agreed. He ran his hand along the walls, feeling the texture that Taehyun had insisted on. He sat in the captain's chair and looked out the main window at the stars. He stood in the garden room and smelled the green growing things. The ship was not powerful. It was not fast. By galactic standards, it was 500 years out of date, but it felt alive. Jisoo found him there an hour later. "Transportation is arranged," she said. "We leave for Valoria tomorrow morning." Do-hoon nodded but did not speak. "Are you scared?" she asked. "Yes." "Do you think we'll win?" He considered the question carefully. "I think we built something true," he said finally. "I think we built something that shows who we are. If that's not what she wants, then we were never going to win anyway." Jisoo sat down beside him. Together, they watched the stars through the window. "Whatever happens," she said, "I'm proud of what we made." "Me too." The next morning, Dawn's Promise left lunar orbit and began its journey to the Valorian Empire. 42 humans had poured their hearts into it. Now they would find out if that was enough. As the ship jumped to faster-than-light speed, Tae-hyun placed his hand on the carved panel one last time. "Take care of her," he whispered to the ship. "Show them what we can do." The ship hummed around him, almost like it was answering, almost like it understood. The Valorian Imperial Palace covered an entire moon. From space, it looked like a jewel, all silver towers and glowing domes. 1,000 ships could dock there at once, and today most of those spaces were full. Do-hoon stood at Dawn's Promise's window as they approached. His stomach was tight with nerves. "Look at them all," Jisoo said beside him. "The other competitors." She was right. Ships of every size and shape filled the docking zone. The Luminari had returned with a new crystal vessel, even more beautiful than before. The Nexari had brought 2 ships this time. Even species that had not competed at Convergence Prime were here now, hoping for a second chance. "They've upgraded," Minseo said from behind them. "After the princess rejected everyone, they went back and improved their designs." Do-hoon said nothing. There was nothing to say. Their little ship looked like a child's toy next to these giants. They docked and were met by Valorian guards in silver armor. The guards looked at the human delegation with barely hidden contempt. "Your vessel is in Bay 47, the lead guard said. "The princess will tour all ships over the next 3 days. You are scheduled for Day 3, final slot." Last place, Do-hoon thought. They did not even expect us to be worth looking at. For 2 days, the humans waited. They heard reports from the tours. The princess spent 2 hours on the new Luminari ship. She asked detailed questions about the Nexari vessel. She seemed impressed by a Vordani design that used black hole energy. "She's going to pick one of them," Yoonji said on the second night. "We don't have a chance." But Do-hoon remembered the rumor about the princess crying in front of old wooden ships. He held on to that memory like a rope in a storm. On the 3rd day, they prepared Dawn's Promise for the tour. Tae-hyun polished his carved panels until they glowed. Minseo checked every system 3 times. Jisoo arranged fresh flowers in the garden room. Then they waited. Princess Yuna arrived with a group of 12. There was Advisor Seol, looking calm and unreadable. There was Commander Ren, head of the Valorian military, who looked at the human ship and made a sound of disgust. And there was Emperor Hyun himself, tall and stern, who had come to see what foolishness his daughter was considering. The princess stepped through the airlock first. She was smaller than Do-hoon expected and younger, but her eyes were sharp, taking in everything. "Welcome aboard Dawn's Promise, Your Highness," Do-hoon said, bowing. "I am Do-hoon Park, Chief Engineer." The princess nodded but did not smile. She began to walk through the ship. At first, she said nothing. She looked at the metal walls, the basic corridor lighting, the simple doors. Commander Ren whispered something to the Emperor, and both men smirked. Then the princess reached the main window. She stopped. For a long moment, she just stood there, looking out at the stars. "You used glass," she said. "Not screens." "Yes, Your Highness." "Why?" Do-hoon thought carefully before answering. "Because screens show you a picture of the stars. Glass shows you the stars themselves." The princess turned to look at him. Something changed in her eyes. "Show me the rest." The tour continued, but the atmosphere was different now. In the garden room, the princess touched the leaves of a small tree and smiled. Actually smiled. In the command deck, she sat in the captain's chair and ran her hands over the manual controls. She spent 10 minutes examining Tae-hyun's carved patterns, tracing them with her finger. "Who made these?" she asked. Tae-hyun stepped forward, nervous. "I did, Your Highness." "By hand?" "Yes." Why? Tae-hyun struggled to answer. Because a ship should have a heart, and a heart cannot be made by machine. The princess stared at him for a long moment. Then she nodded slowly. 3 hours passed. The other ships had received 20 minutes each, but Princess Yuna stayed on Dawn's Promise for 3 hours, examining every room, asking questions about every detail. Finally, they returned to the main corridor where the Emperor and Commander Ren were waiting. The Emperor's face was hard and angry. "Enough of this," he said. "Yuna, this is absurd. You cannot seriously consider this primitive vessel." "It is not primitive," the princess said calmly. "It has windows instead of sensors. It has plants growing in it like some peasant farm. The technology is 5 centuries behind." "The technology is not the point," Yuna said, and her voice was suddenly sharp. The Emperor fell silent. The princess turned to face the whole group. "Every ship I have seen in the past weeks has been perfect. Perfect technology, perfect efficiency, perfect design. They are all built to conquer distance, to be fast, to be powerful." She paused. "But I am not looking for a weapon. I am not looking for a racing ship. I am looking for a vessel that will carry me across the stars for the rest of my life." She gestured at the corridor around them. "This ship is not trying to conquer anything. It is trying to be a home. Every detail is designed not for efficiency but for meaning. The windows, the garden, the wooden panels, they serve no practical purpose, but they make the ship feel alive." She looked at her father. "That is what I want. That is what only the humans understood." Commander Ren stepped forward. "Your Highness, if you select a human ship, the Empire will look weak. The other species will laugh at us." "Let them laugh," the princess said. "I would rather have a ship with a soul than a ship with more weapons." The Emperor's face was red with anger. "You will explain yourself to the Council. This decision affects the entire Empire." "Yes, Father, I will explain." The princess's voice was calm but firm. "And I will tell them the same thing I am telling you. I choose Dawn's Promise." Silence filled the corridor. Do-hun felt his heart pounding so hard he thought everyone must hear it. Advisor Seol smiled quietly. Commander Ren looked furious. The Emperor stared at his daughter like he was seeing her for the first time. Then the princess turned to Do-hun and held out her hand. "Thank you," she said simply. "You understood what I needed before I could explain it." Do-hun shook her hand. His voice came out rough with emotion. "It was our honor, Your Highness." As the royal party left the ship, Jisoo grabbed Do-hun's arm. "We won," she whispered. "We actually won." But Do-hun saw the Emperor's angry face, Commander Ren's clenched fists. He saw other species watching from their ships with shock and outrage. "We won this battle," he said, "but I think the war is just beginning." That night, news spread across the galaxy. The Valorian princess had chosen a human ship. A small company called Horizon Dynamics had defeated the greatest shipbuilders in the known universe. Some species laughed, some were angry, some were confused. But a few, just a few, were curious. What did the humans know that everyone else had missed? In her chambers, Princess Yuna stood at her window and looked at Dawn's Promise, docked in the orbital bay. A small ship, an ordinary ship, a ship with a soul. For the first time in years, she felt like she was about to go home. 2 months after the selection, Princess Yuna announced that she would take Dawn's Promise on its first real voyage. Not a short test flight, but a full diplomatic mission to the border colonies. "She's trying to prove the ship's worth," Advisor Seol told Do-hun. "Many in the court still doubt her choice. She needs to show them they were wrong." Do-hun was worried. The border regions were dangerous, close to territory controlled by the Keth, a warrior species that had been raiding Valorian colonies for decades. But the princess had made her decision. A human crew was assigned to the ship. Sujin Bayek, one of the best pilots on Earth, took the helm. Hyejin Yu, a brilliant engineer, managed the ship's systems. 4 other humans filled out the crew. Together with the princess and a small Valorian guard, they set out for the border. For 3 weeks, everything went smoothly. Dawn's Promise visited colony after colony, and everywhere they went, people were curious about the human ship. They wanted to see the windows, the garden, the carved panels. Many of them had the same reaction the princess had. Something about the ship felt different. It felt alive. Then they reached the Keth border. The attack came without warning. One moment, they were traveling through empty space. The next, 12 Keth warships surrounded them. Their escort fleet, 6 Valorian cruisers, immediately engaged the enemy. But the Keth had planned well. Within minutes, 5 of the cruisers were disabled. The 6th was fighting desperately, outnumbered and outgunned. "They're jamming our communications," Hyejin reported, her fingers flying over her console. "I can't reach anyone." "Weapons?" Sujin asked. "We have basic defensive systems. Nothing that can fight off 12 warships." On the bridge, Princess Yuna stood calmly, watching the battle through the main window. Her Valorian guards looked terrified, but she showed no fear. "Can we run?" she asked. Sujin checked the navigation. "They've positioned themselves to cut off all escape routes. We'd have to go through them." "Then we go through them." Everyone turned to look at her. "Your Highness," one of the guards said, "that's suicide. Their ships are faster and stronger." "Their ships are controlled by computers," the princess interrupted. "Every Keth vessel uses an AI pilot. The AI makes decisions based on logic and probability." She looked at Sujin. "Can you fly in a way that is not logical?" Sujin slowly smiled. "Your Highness, I'm human. Nothing I do is logical." She grabbed the manual controls, the real wheel and levers that Jisoo had insisted on, and Dawn's Promise surged forward. The Keth ships immediately responded, their AI systems calculating trajectories and firing solutions. But Sujin did not fly in trajectories. She flew like a sailor in a storm, reacting on instinct, changing direction for no reason, slowing down when she should speed up. The AI could not predict her because there was nothing to predict. She was not following a pattern. She was making it up as she went. "Asteroid field ahead," Hyejin called out. "I see it." "The computer says we can't fit through those gaps." "Then turn off the computer." Sujin flew into the asteroid field by sight alone, watching the rocks through the window and threading between them with centimeters to spare. 2 Keth ships followed. One crashed into an asteroid immediately, its AI unable to navigate without perfect sensor data. The second lasted 30 seconds longer before it too was destroyed. They burst out of the asteroid field with 10 ships still in pursuit. "They're adapting," Hyejin warned. "The AI is learning your patterns." "Then I need a new pattern." Princess Yuna stepped forward. "There," she said, pointing at the window. "That dark area, what is it?" Sujin checked sensors. "Some kind of energy cloud. The computer can't identify it." "Can we fly through it?" "I don't know. Maybe. But the sensors won't work inside. We'd be flying blind." The princess looked at the cloud, then at the pursuing ships. "The Keth rely on sensors even more than we do. If we go in there, we're blind. But they're helpless." It was crazy. It was dangerous. It was exactly the kind of thing only a human would try. Sujin flew into the cloud. Inside, everything went dark. The sensors showed nothing but static. The only light came from the stars visible through the windows. The real glass windows that everyone had called primitive and useless. "I can see 3 of them following us," one of the crew reported, face pressed against a side window. "They're about 200 meters back." "Only 3. The others stopped at the edge. I don't think they want to come in." Sujin navigated by starlight, using the positions of distant suns to guide her way. It was how ancient sailors had crossed Earth's oceans. It was how her grandmother had taught her to find her way home on camping trips. 5 minutes later, they emerged from the other side of the cloud. All three pursuing ships had crashed inside, unable to navigate without their sensors. 7 ships left. But now they were angry. The Keth stopped trying to capture them and started trying to destroy them. Energy blasts rocked Dawn's Promise, damaging the hull, knocking out systems. "Engine 2 is failing," Hyejin shouted. "Can you fix it?" "Not with tools. The damage is too severe. I'd need to—" She stopped, thinking. Then she grabbed a welding torch and ran toward the engine room. "Give me 5 minutes." "We don't have 5 minutes." "Then fly better." Hyejin reached the damaged engine and saw the problem. A precision component had been destroyed. A proper repair would take hours and specialized equipment. But Hyejin was human. She did not do proper repairs. She did whatever worked. She grabbed spare parts from 3 different systems. None of them designed for this purpose. She welded them together in ways that no manual would approve. She used a piece of pipe as a support and her own belt as a binding strap. It was ugly. It was inefficient. And it worked perfectly. Engine 2 came back online. Sujin felt the power return and pushed the ship harder. But they were still outnumbered, still outgunned, still far from help. "We need to send a message," Yuna said. "Somehow." Hyejin had an idea. She ran to the communication console and started adjusting frequencies. "What are you doing?" Sujin asked. "Old radio waves, very old. It's a frequency nobody uses anymore because it's slow and limited." She paused. "Nobody except humans." She sent out a distress signal on the ancient frequency, the same kind of signal that Earth ships had used centuries ago. It traveled out into space, ignored by every advanced species in the galaxy. But 20 minutes later, a human merchant vessel picked it up. The merchant ship relayed the message to the nearest Valorian outpost. Within an hour, reinforcements arrived. A full Valorian battle fleet, enough to scatter the remaining Keth ships. When it was over, Dawn's Promise floated in space, damaged but alive. Sujin sat back in her chair, hands shaking. Hyejin slumped against a wall, exhausted. The princess stood at the window, looking at the stars they had fought so hard to see. 3 ships, Yuna said quietly. "We destroyed 3 Keth vessels and escaped from 12. In a ship with no weapons." She turned to the human crew. "When we return to the palace, Commander Ren will have to eat his words." Sujin laughed weakly. "I'd like to see that." The princess smiled. "So would I." Later, as they limped toward the Valorian fleet, Yuna found Hyejin by the damaged engine. "That repair," the princess said, "it should not have worked. Every engineering principle says it should have failed." Hyejin shrugged. "Maybe the principles are wrong. Or maybe there is something about humans that the principles do not account for." Hyejin thought about it. "We're stubborn," she said. "We don't like being told something is impossible. It makes us want to try harder." Princess Yuna nodded slowly. "Yes," she said. "I think that is exactly it." She touched the ugly, improvised repair with something like affection. "I think that is exactly it." 1 year after the battle at the border, Dohun stood on the observation deck of the New Horizon Dynamics orbital shipyard and tried to believe what he was seeing. The shipyard was 10 times larger than the old one. 100 workers moved through its corridors, building vessels for clients across the galaxy. And in the main construction bay, the skeleton of their newest ship, Endless Horizon, was taking shape. "We have orders from 12 different species," Jisoo said, walking up beside him. 12, including 3 that laughed at us a year ago. What changed their minds? The battle. Everyone heard what happened. A human ship with no weapons fought off 12 Keth warships. She smiled. Suddenly everyone wants to know our secret. The secret, Do-hoon thought, was not really a secret. It was just something that humans did naturally and other species had to learn. Build things with your heart, not just your hands. Make something that feels alive. They had tried to teach this to their new alien partners. Some understood quickly, others struggled with the concept. How could a ship have a soul? How could a machine feel like a home? It is strange, a Luminary engineer had told Do-hoon last month. We have technology you will not discover for centuries. But this thing you do, this caring about how a ship feels, we have never thought about it before. We build to specifications, you build to dreams. The door opened, and Minseo rushed in. She's here! The princess is here! Do-hoon smoothed his jacket and headed for the docking bay. Princess Yuna's shuttle landed gently in the main hangar. When the door opened, she stepped out in simple traveling clothes, not royal robes. Advisor Seol was with her, and so was a new face, Ambassador Yuri Song, the first human representative to the Valorian Empire. Do-hoon Park, the princess said, smiling. It is good to see you again. Your Highness, welcome to our new home. It is impressive. She looked around the hangar, at the workers and ships and busy machinery. Hard to believe this all started from a bankrupt company on a moon. We had help, Do-hoon said. Your faith in us opened doors. My faith was rewarded. That is not help. That is justice. He led her through the shipyard, showing her the workshops and design studios, the training centers where alien engineers learned human techniques, the small museum that held models and photographs from their history. They stopped at a window overlooking the main construction bay. Endless horizon floated there, half complete, already beautiful. It's bigger than Dawn's Promise, the princess observed. Yes, it's designed for long expeditions, exploration missions that might last years, but the philosophy is the same. Windows instead of screens, gardens and common spaces, manual controls, everything made to feel like home. I would like to fly on it someday. It would be our honor. They continued the tour until they reached the office wing. There, in a small conference room, the senior team had gathered. Jisoo, Minseo, Taehyun, Yoonji, Hyejin, Sujin. The people who had built Dawn's Promise and changed everything. Princess Yuna greeted each of them personally, asking about their families, their work, their lives. She remembered details from previous conversations. Minseo's sister, who had just gotten married, Taehyun's granddaughter, who wanted to be an engineer like him. She made each person feel seen. When the greetings were done, the princess stood at the head of the table. I came today for 2 reasons, she said. First, to thank you. What you built saved my life and changed my empire. Because of you, humans are now respected across the galaxy. That is not a small thing. The team nodded, embarrassed but pleased. Second, the princess continued, I want to tell you something I have never told anyone. I want to tell you why I chose your ship. The room went quiet. I was raised in the palace, Yuna said. I had everything, wealth, power, education, but I was also a tool. A future empress is not a person. She is a function. Every moment of my life was scheduled, controlled, optimized. I was efficient. I was perfect. She paused. I was empty. She walked to the window and looked out at the stars. When I visited Earth and saw those old wooden ships, something broke inside me. Those ships were not efficient. They were not perfect. But they were made with love. I could feel it in every plank and rope. The people who built them cared about them. And the people who sailed them. They were not just traveling. They were living. She turned back to the group. When I toured your ship and saw the windows and the garden and the carved wood, I felt the same thing. I felt that someone had built this with their heart. That it was not just a machine, but a piece of their soul. Her voice softened. For the first time in my life, I felt like a person, not a function. That is why I chose you. Not because your technology was better, because your ship made me feel human. Silence filled the room. Then Tae-hyun stood up. He was holding something wrapped in cloth, a small package he had brought with him. "Your Highness," he said, his voice rough, "I made you something." He unwrapped the cloth to reveal a small wooden ship. It was carved by hand, every detail perfect, every surface smooth. It looked like the old sailing ships from Earth's oceans. "It has no technology," Tae-hyun said. "It cannot fly or float. It is just wood." He held it out to her. "But I put my heart in it. That is what we do. That is what humans have always done. We put pieces of ourselves into the things we make." Princess Yuna took the wooden ship. For a long moment, she just looked at it, running her fingers over the tiny carved sails. Then she did something that no one expected. She cried. Not loudly, not dramatically. Just tears sliding down her cheeks as she held the little ship. Advisor Seol stepped forward, concerned, but Yuna waved her away. "These are good tears," the princess said, smiling through them. "These are grateful tears." She looked at Tae-hyun, at the whole team. "This is what you have given the galaxy," she said. "Not just ships, not just technology. You have given us meaning. You have shown us that efficiency is not everything, that perfection is not the goal. The goal is connection. The goal is love. The goal is putting a piece of yourself into the universe and hoping it matters." She held up the wooden ship. "It matters," she said. "I promise you, it matters." That evening, after the official events were over, Yuna asked Do-hoon to take her to Dawn's Promise. The ship was docked at the station, maintained and upgraded, but still essentially the same vessel they had built a year ago. They stood together on the bridge, looking out the main window at the stars. "I am announcing a new initiative tomorrow," the princess said. "Joint colonies where humans and Valorians will live and work together. We will combine our approaches, your heart and our technology, and see what we can create." "That sounds wonderful." "It will be difficult. Many in my empire still do not understand what humans offer. They see your limitations, not your strengths." She looked at him. "But I believe it will work. I believe we have something to teach each other." Do-hoon nodded. "So do I." The princess turned back to the window. In the distance, the new fleet was assembling, dozens of ships built with human philosophy, ready to carry explorers into the unknown. "You know what I love most about humans?" Yuna said. "What?" "You are never just traveling somewhere. You are always journeying. There is a difference." She smiled. "Traveling is about arriving. Journeying is about becoming. Every human ship is full of people who are becoming something new." Do-hoon thought about his team, how they had grown from bankrupt engineers into galactic pioneers, how they had become more than they ever imagined. "Maybe that's because we're still young," he said. "As a species, I mean. We haven't figured everything out yet. We're still learning who we are." "Yes," the princess said. "And that is your greatest gift. You are still becoming. You remind the rest of us that we can become too." She placed her hand on the window, touching the glass, touching the stars. "Dawn's Promise," she said. "That was a good name for this ship. But I think it should be the name for all your ships. Every human vessel is a promise of dawn, a promise that something new is beginning, that something better is coming." Do-hoon stood beside her, looking at the fleet that his small team had inspired, at the future they had helped create. "We will do our best to keep that promise," he said. Princess Yuna smiled. "I know you will. That is the most human thing of all." Far below them, endless horizon was waiting to be finished. And beyond it, a galaxy was waiting to be explored. A galaxy that was finally learning what humans had always known, that the journey matters more than the destination, that home is something you carry with you, and that the smallest light, if it burns with enough heart, can illuminate the entire universe.